everybody. I wanted to talk for a few minutes about eating out. I feel like in order to live and eat low glycemic for a lifestyle and not feel like you are on a diet all the time, which is what most of us want to feel like, especially as we're getting older, is being able to go out, enjoy, go to parties and go to restaurants and not feel like you're depriving yourself. Now, that being said, if your goal is to eat, the metaphorical cheesecake, everywhere you go, then yes, you're going to feel like you're deprived a bit. But the goal is that there's so many healthy foods. And as we start to change our palate and change our sugar cravings a little bit, you're going to be able to see that there's so much more on the menu. There are a lot of different kinds of restaurants that cater specifically to the kinds of food that we want to eat for healthy eating. But there's also a lot of restaurants that you go to that you might not think about that will also allow you the opportunity to eat healthy. So again, if you see my eyes dart, I'm just sort of looking at my notes a little bit. But one of the first things that you can do, and this came up in a class this week, was to think about where you're going and think about the menu. So I had a woman in my class this week who was invited to a Chinese food restaurant and was concerned about what she could eat. And Chinese food is one of the greatest restaurants that you can go to for adapting if you're serious. So going back to a little bit of what I said the other day about you have to decide if you are on the journey to get to a specific goal, in which case you're being way more rigid about your choices, or you're just living this like a lifestyle, in which case you might, adapt and bob and weave a little bit with the choices that you make. So she is dedicated right now to be losing weight and focus. So she wants to be rigid about it. So on any Chinese food menu, they have things like Buddha's Delight and steamed vegetables and steamed. You can get your whole meal steamed because the hidden trap in the Chinese food restaurants, as we know, is in the sauces. The fortune cookies, stuff like that. Obviously, we want to try to avoid the rice, the fried rice, the lo meins, things like that. But those seem obvious. But getting shrimp or chicken with vegetables, even pork, are all great choices. One of the easiest things you can do in a Chinese food restaurant, similar to what you might do with a salad, is just to get the sauce on the side. So if you like the brown garlic sauce, or you like the white sauce, or whatever it is that you like, if you just get it on the side, then you can add it back onto your meal in whatever kind of portion that you want. And even if that means you pour the whole thing back, but at least you're in control of it and your food's not sitting in it. It also this is like a lesson I learned, dare I say, in the fast food industry when we would go when we were younger, that if you just asked the fast food restaurant to change something about your hamburger, like if you went to Wendy's and you ordered a burger, but you asked for no tomato or no lettuce, you were guaranteed to get a fresh burger because they had to create it from scratch. So sometimes I like trying to pick foods in Chinese restaurant and having them alter something. I don't eat mushrooms, or I want, the sauce on the side. That means they definitely have to start over again. Obviously, if you're in a good restaurant, they're going to make it to order anyway. But some things do sit for a little while, or some things are made in groups. So feel free to ask for something special. That brings up, obviously, salads and stuff. Salads are the simplest change that you can make, and I'm sure many of you have already, of just asking for the salad dressing on the side. Again, even if you put it all back, or for example, I used to, before I, had my epiphany about dairy, was mildly obsessed with blue cheese dressing. But the first thing I did was start asking for it on the side, and then I would just take my salad and I would dip it a little bit into the blue cheese, or I would dip my fork first into the blue cheese and then take a bite. And that was an easy way for me to get the flavor but not saturate the dressing. This is great, for example, if you like something like Eggs Benedict. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that Eggs Benedict is a good thing to eat, but if that's what you crave and what you want, even just getting the Benedict sauce on the side, where you dip your fork in and then take a bite of your egg and perhaps get a Florentine with spinach or something, then that's a great choice, because it's just a way for you to get the flavor but not obviously eat everything. So you want to pay attention to the menu of where you're going and think about ways that you can make changes to it. One of the biggest secrets I have about going out is to eat a little bit of something before you go out. Have some water or have a snack, a healthy snack. But don't go to a restaurant or a function starving, because that's like going to a grocery store starving. You're going to buy everything. So you don't want to do that, okay? You want to treat each meal like what it is, a meal. And that goes for holidays and stuff like that. I would suggest wearing your favorite outfit, look beautiful, but try to avoid elastic pants because they obviously make a lot of your choices easier to make. Again, like I said, drink water before your meal. Definitely don't eat bread before your meal. So when we talk about the glycemic index and the spiking of your blood sugar, if you take, for example, that you're hungry and you go to a restaurant and you sit down at the table and they bring the, dreaded bowl of bread to you to look at, and take the piece of bread. Now your blood sugar level has spiked, and basically you've gone into fat storage mode. And now, depending on who you are and your health and sort of how many, metaphorical pieces of bread you've had over your life, will affect whether you have carb sensitivity or what we call metabolic syndrome, where your body might process everything like a carb. So now that your blood sugar level has spiked, and when you order even your boring like poached chicken and steamed broccoli, your body is still going to probably process that like a carb and store it as fat. But if you really felt you needed the bread, and you combined it with your meal and you had a lot of vegetables on your plate, now the load of your meal has gone down and it's going to have a slower rise to your blood sugar level. I would say the same is true of alcohol, which is always, everybody's question about how do I maintain healthy weight and also still drink the wine that I want to drink. Now, clearly there needs to be some give and take. So having a bottle of wine every day is without question going to impact your body. That would be true of beer or anything else. Vodka, a better choice, but still you won't be drinking a bottle of vodka every day either. But if you start with a glass of wine, it's so much sugar in it, it's going to spike your blood sugar really high. And now no matter what you choose to eat, it has the potential to be stored as fat. So combining that wine with almonds or nuts or a good fat or something that's going to help slow the rise of the blood sugar, again, a better way to do that. So again, ask if you can for food to be cooked without butter and dressings. You can substitute food. You can substitute sauces. If you see something has an Alfredo sauce, you can always ask for olive oil and garlic, which is something that I do a lot. I also try to minimize tomatoes. So sometimes if I go, there's an Italian restaurant here that I like if I want to order something, and let's say I want to have a little bit of pasta, but I don't want to have the tomatoes, so I'm sort of picking which is the vice I'd prefer to have that night. I'll ask for that to be cooked in olive oil and garlic. Always best bets are fishes and lean proteins without sauces, again, or sauces on the side. You want to have a good vegetable. You want your plate to be a lot of proteins, vegetables, and obviously minimal carbs, and ideally lower glycemic carbs. Sweet potatoes are better substitutes. Lentils are good substitutes. Beans, even rice, though it's higher glycemic, is always better than a French fry or a mashed potato or a white potato. Again, you want half veggies, a quarter protein, and a quarter a carb on your plate. Another great tricks, especially if you go to big restaurants like Macaroni Grill or Carmine's in the city, is to ask for a to-go container up front. So sometimes if I would get a big plate, I would look at it and think, wow, that's too much for me to eat right now. And I would ask for a to-go container, and I would put that to-go container aside, and I would eat what's on my plate. Because what tends to happen is when you're done eating, don't you just sit there and you pick and you pick and you pick? When I was a kid, and my mom would sit and drink coffee for hours at the end of our meal, and we were subject to sitting there, and I would keep eating. I started to pour pepper on my food so that I would stop going at it. So that's a neat little trick too. But having the to-go container is easy because then it's completely off your plate. And if you really feel you need to add it back, then you add it back. Read between the lines. Buttery, sauteed, pan-fried, au gratin, Newburgh, Parmesan, cheese sauce, scalloped, ole, a la mode, fromage. Those are all signs for please don't eat me because I'm going to go right to your hips. Okay, so definitely try to avoid those things. My biggest advice is to pre-plan your cheat and don't feel guilty. I think the worst thing is when people stress and stress and stress over what they're eating. Just take the bite and move on. Maybe don't have as big a piece as you had before. But if you really feel you need something, have it. Have the taste. Put a piece of gum in your mouth or a mint in your mouth afterwards. Get it out of your mouth, the taste of it, and move on. I say all the time, thin, healthy people eat foods that are not healthy all the time. Not all the time, but sometimes. So the difference is that it's not eaten every day, every week, every month, every year, ongoing, like what way I was eating carbs before, where every single meal I had a carb. Now, for the few and far between carbs I put in, I'm not gaining all my weight back. I might not feel great, but that's a different health issue. But seriously, just move on. The key, though, is to plan it and bracket it well. So if you know you're going to go to a wedding and you know that there's going to be food there that you want, or there's going to be that god-awful, candy station at the end or something like that, say, you know what, I'm going in, Mike and Ike's are my vice, or, chocolate-covered strawberries is my thing, and I'm going in, I'm going to have two, I'm going to enjoy them, and then I'm going to move on, or same with alcohol or whatever you want to do. But have your day going into your meal be smart, and have your day coming out of it be smart. That's the key to this program, is that now you know what to do. So you just need to get right back on the horse and make the better choice the next day. It's going to be that for the rest of your life. Where the weight is going to come back is if you keep going down into that, tunnel of, sadness of I ate it, now I got to eat more and more and more. Okay. Ideally, we want to avoid buffets, but even buffets have healthy choices on there. One of my favorite classes I taught was with a young couple who always went on cruises, and they really didn't know how to eat healthy coming into the class. And then during the middle of the class, they ended up going on their yearly cruise, and it was so exciting because they came back, they hadn't gained any weight, they had the best time on the cruise, they ate well, they had never noticed half the food that was on the buffet table that they now knew tasted good, that they would enjoy. And they didn't also spend the entire cruise sitting at the buffet station. They actually went out and did stuff, which is a whole nother aspect. Don't make food bind you to the table all the time. And obviously avoid fast food restaurants if you can. I know we talked about label reading, but even in my class recently, we were looking at the labels of, you could go online to things like Panera, almost every restaurant now, and you can look at the calories and the salt intake and the fat content of a lot of these places. So if you're going to a restaurant and it's something that might have a website that you could do this, go online and look, because you will be surprised. The healthy, beautiful Panera salad, even without the salad dressing, often has like 1,500 milligrams of sodium. Now, I believe that comes from the storing of the salad so that it stays fresh, but that's a lot of sodium for your healthy choice. And the way Panera does it is they separate the salad dressing, so I can't even say that it's connected in the salad dressing. So be a wise consumer and know what you are eating, but enjoy and make healthier choices than maybe you were doing before. You will still have a great time going out. Take care.